Hi, I'm Dan Ravello, and I work in the city's Public Information Office. I'm joined by Mayor Sumbul Siddiqui and City Manager DePasquale, who will be answering questions submitted by residents. We received over 160 questions on a variety of topics, and we'll get to as many as we can. The questions we're discussing today represent the major themes for the questions we received. For those we can't get to, we'll be responding to each individually by email to make sure your questions are answered. You'll also notice that we're all sitting at least 6 feet apart in order to practice proper social distancing. So we won't be wearing masks to make sure that you can understand what we're saying. When this is over, and when we leave the studio, we'll have our masks on just like all residents should when they go outside, are shopping, or cannot practice social distancing. So let's jump right in. Our first question, and probably our most popular question, is about face coverings. So Russ from West Cambridge, Zach from Mid Cambridge, Nicola from the Port, and Margaret from North Cambridge all want to know, why has Cambridge not mandated the use of face coverings?
So that's a great question, and I think over the last 2 or 3 weeks we've talked about it every day. What's the best steps for Cambridge to take place? We at this point have gone with the advisory basis. Back on April 9th, the mayor and myself sent out a strong recommendation asking people to really be concerned and understand the importance of it. And as weeks have gone on, we realized that more and more people were not wearing as many face masks as we would have hoped they would have, a face protection. And we've sent out some updates with updates and press releases and emails to our residents. But on April 17th, we decided to go with a code red notice on this. And we take code red very serious. We don't do it that often. I think it's the 3rd time we've used it, to really let our residents know the importance of this, to really understand that this is something that we really need to, when we're outside, but also when we're in stores and supermarkets, make sure it's on. But even with that, we felt we needed to do more. So on April 21st, we sent out another batch of emails to residents saying the importance of this. And starting April 27th, we're going to have our trucks going around just to let people know, especially in areas where we may have seen more people without masks near fields and stuff, to bring home the fact that we really think this is something that everybody has to go together with. And we're really trying to educate and inform our residents why this is important. We have not gone with the mandated route, and we're constantly in discussions, but there is a concern about enforcement when you mandate that every person going outside has to wear it. And is that the best way to use our resources of our police department? So this is an ongoing discussion. It continues, but I will tell you, when it comes to the stores that are open and the restaurant community, we have had inspectional services working with that community constantly to make sure and provide masks for their employees. We've provided over 2,000 masks to restaurants and stores. Over the long weekend, last weekend, we had inspectional services going around to the stores Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the holiday, just to make sure that we were doing everything right in these facilities. And we'll continue to work with them. And it's really been a team approach in terms of making these decisions. We're very fortunate to have a very strong public health department, so we speak with our chief public health officer, we speak with our commissioner of public health, we speak to our police commissioner, our inspectional service, to get me and the mayor are talking every day to say, what is the next step for the city to do? And this is ongoing, and we'll continue to have those conversations.
And sometimes it's a question of access too that's come up. Residents have reached out and said, I want to put on a face covering, I don't have any, or I've run out. So through many donations that my office has received from community members, we've been able to get face coverings to those who need it. And I would encourage anyone who is lacking supplies to reach out to my office, and I'll do what I can to get you some face coverings. I think, as Louis said, it's an ongoing discussion. With every policy, we have to think about the positive externalities and the negative externalities, and that's what we're doing. We're evaluating, and we'll be very transparent about our decisions.
And so you said you're encouraging people to wear them because it's important, but what would you say to a young person watching who says, I'm not going to get sick, I don't need to wear a face covering? Why is it important that everyone wears a face covering when they leave the house?
Well, I would say the one thing we've realized now is there is no age that is exempt from this. So it does affect everybody, but it also affects the people you're around. It's just the right thing to do. And I think we want to send the message that we're not only concerned about ourselves, but we're also concerned about the people that we're around. it's important as a city that we come together in these matters and let people know we are all in it together.
And, quite simply, act as if you have the virus. You may be asymptomatic. Many people are. And if you are, you should be having a mask when you are outside and you can't socially distance. And so I think that young person, we have to encourage others to think about others when they are going outside, because this is truly a very uncertain time. It's a pandemic. So anything that person can do would be very important.
Great. So another popular question we had was about testing. So Adam from Agassiz and Mira from Neighborhood 9 want to know, where can Cambridge residents get tested for COVID-19 within the boundaries of the city, and when will the city have widespread testing?
Yeah, this is a difficult issue. As we see on the media, there's been a lot of issues with getting tests and a shortage of tests. In Cambridge, we don't have testing sites run by the city. Right now, we don't have the capacity to do universal testing. The Cambridge Health Alliance does have a site in Somerville for Cambridge Health Alliance patients. So if you're a Cambridge resident who is a Cambridge Health Alliance patient, you can go to Somerville for the drive-by testing. Much of the testing that we've been able to build capacity with has come through partners, such as the Broad Institute. And with that, we've been able to test our most vulnerable, our elderly and our homeless population. And it's something that both the city manager and I and the city council are very committed to do. We want more tests, we want more testing, but at this point, it is a capacity issue. The state has opened up sites that if you are a essential worker, if you're public safety personnel, grocery worker, you can go to those sites, which is very important. And if you yourself are experiencing symptoms, once you call your healthcare provider, your provider will then tell you whether or not their healthcare facility has a test, and if they don't, they'll refer you to a testing location. So you have to have a referral. You can't walk in right now to our Cambridge Hospital, to our Mount Auburn, without a referral. So you will need that. And if you don't have insurance, the state is actually offering telehealth. And that way you can get screened online. And if you don't have internet at home, you can call 211 for more information on that. So yeah, it's a tricky situation.
I know as part of the Cambridge Health Alliance board, the Somerville site does about 90 tests a day. And the goal is to have 2 more sites throughout its locations, but there's just not enough tests. So the Health Alliance is ready to roll if the tests become available. But like the mayor said, I really want to thank the Broad Institute, because our most vulnerable population, working with them, with the nursing homes and the homeless, I think we're up over 1,300 tests that we were able to provide for that population and for that workforce, which is really paying dividends to help us figure out how we can handle the situation. So again, it's not a perfect situation. Everyone needs more tests, but we're trying to figure out what we can do best with the tests we have.
Great. Al from Strawberry Hill and James from Mid-Cambridge are asking, is all construction in the city canceled, and when will companies be able to restart construction?
That's a great question, because on March 18th, we put in a construction moratorium, which stopped all new construction. So we stopped all building permits from that date on. However, from March 18th to March 26th, we allowed construction to continue to finish their job, to close it up. But nothing was extended after that, unless it was for exceptional reasons, like if it was a lab, they had to put a fire alarm system in, a sprinkler system. We've allowed that construction on the commercial side. But pretty much now, all construction that was permitted before March 18th should be pretty much closed up. However, there was some construction that needed to continue, new construction, that needed the approval of the Inspectional Service Commissioner or the Public Works Commissioner in terms of safety and things that the city's looked at. So those are the type of constructions we're doing. The one thing, though, that we did also was we wanted to understand the impact of residential properties. Mm-hmm. So again, a deadline of March 18th, no new permits on residential, but we did allow 1, 2, and 3 families to continue their projects to get them finished, and those projects are pretty much winding down. So really what's going on now, construction projects that we've determined are essential, Their minimal inspectional services goes out there, make sure they're following all the guidelines they should be following. But it is confusing for residents when we say we have a moratorium, yet there are some projects going on. About when construction will probably come back, we're looking at that the way we look at everything. There's no right or wrong answer, and we've put together a team that's going to start taking a look at that. We're really taking a look at not what's the day it's going to come back, but what we would need to bring it back, what phases we would bring it back in, how do we make sure the union workers are protected, how do we make sure we limit the impact on our residents. We have started that discussion. We've started to put the committee together. We've worked closely with Mayor Walsh, who's also starting to talk about what it would look like in Boston. We've worked with Mayor Curatone. So we're not to the stage of saying construction is coming back. We are to the stage of saying if it comes back, what would it look like? As we are with most of the things that we're going to eventually have to look at. Restaurants, stores, parks, playgrounds. What would be the process to bring these gradually back into play?
And so if I'm, there's a neighbor out there who looks out their window and they see construction going on at the house next door, and workers might not be wearing masks or might not be practicing social distancing, what should that neighbor who's concerned do?
I think in the mayor's office and myself have got numerous calls about this to just check. One, it could be a job that's not supposed to be permitted and they're working. Hopefully that's not the case, but it is. We'll have inspection will go and shut them down. But often we're sending inspection just to make sure they're following the right guidelines. On April 2nd, we set out a new set of guidelines because we knew there was some construction that was going to go on. We've handed that out to the people who are working, so we would follow up to make sure that all the proper procedures are being followed. And as I said earlier, I think it's important to realize the buildings in the city are closed, but the work continues, and we work closely with the mayor's office to respond when people do have concerns of what's going on.
And we're really relying on our public health team, our expert advisory committee, to figure out the dates and the when. A lot of that is still very speculative, and so we are waiting as this pandemic unfolds and evolves on how to use that data to inform our decisions moving forward.
And also, we know how hard it is on people at home with kids if there's construction going on next door.
Of course, yeah, so we thank our residents for their patience throughout this.
So Biessa in North Cambridge says, no doubt that the Cambridge Public Schools is attempting to adapt distance learning. What role can your office play in bridging the gap between the privileged and underprivileged families in Cambridge?
It's a great question. I think my office plays a key role in this. As someone who grew up underprivileged in Cambridge, this is an issue I take very seriously, and I think it's key that our CPS administration and others, we take into account the needs of our most underprivileged. And I think that's what, since the pandemic, we've been focusing on. Food, we've been focusing on the families who don't have internet at home. We've been able to deliver, thanks to our Steve Smith, Chief Information Officer, over 400 hotspots. And we will continue to deliver these hotspots to families who do not have reliable internet so that they can do the distance learning in their homes. So that has been at the forefront of the administration. I think there's a lot more that can be done and needs to be done. And it isn't perfect, and I think it's something that daily myself, the city manager, the city council, school committee, superintendent, we are thinking about it and thinking about how we improve. We have so many great partners. We have our universities, we have our out-of-school time groups, we have our great community organizations who have resources, and so my office has to connect the dots and connect these resources to those who need them the most, and that's something I'm very committed to do.
I would just follow up, as a city, there's nothing more important we can do than make sure the people who need our services the most get it. And that's in all areas that we do. And we've put a lot of attention into making sure that works. So on the school side, the city manager's role really is bottom line authority. But I can tell you I work closely with the mayor, the superintendent, and fiscal team to make sure that the school will have the resources they need to make sure that the people who need it the most will get it.
Great.
And I want to thank the family liaisons, the many, many staff, food service staff, just the exceptional services that they're providing for our families during this time.
So our next question is from John from the Port. He's asking, is the city of Cambridge going to get more strict on social distancing? Will Cambridge issue fines to violators? And will Cambridge close fields to promote social distancing?
So I guess I can start off with that. And what we've tried to do again is really go with getting the information out there. So one of the things we did, we have signs in all our parks and playgrounds in multi-languages to just say, please, make sure you're always having social distance. We have not closed down our fields, but we have closed down our basketball courts, our tennis courts, our tot lot, all areas that were really bringing people closer together. But in all our facilities right now, we have informational boards, we have charts up on the fence that just say, please understand it. So again, we have really taken the approach to continue to say, this is important, stay with it if we see it. I mean, I can tell you that on weekends a lot, I drive through the parks myself or walk through, and I'm the first to call the police department. Again, balancing their efforts to say, we need to break this up. When we first, stopped the basketball courts, we reversed the nets, and we thought that would do it, and we found out the first good day, they were all new nets up and people were playing. So now we've literally had to take every backboard down to prevent it. So again, it's getting the message out, working with our residents, but we are taking everything in place right now to pretty much say, we're advising you to stay at home. If you have to go out, we want to leave our parks open as long as they're spaced apart and people are just walking through, getting some exercise if they feel they need to do that. But in terms of giving tickets or enforcement like that, we've had police more just say, please move along. And that's where people have been behaving themselves. And I can tell you, each weekend that I go into these facilities, there's less and less people not doing the right thing. And I think that's so important that people are getting it, the message is there, and it's fewer and fewer calls that I know police are getting to say, can you go to this site? Because people are not social distancing.
Yeah, I think our hobby these days is to drive around on weekends and make sure people are social distancing. And if they're not, we will make a call and say there is a huge group doing X, Y. It has become rarer and rarer, but I think the message is stay home, stay with your immediate household members, and I think making it more strict, those are ongoing questions, and what they would look like if we were going to go down that road, we'd communicate with the residents on that.
Okay. So a couple of related questions to that. So Anders from Riverside and Paula from Neighborhood 9 are wondering, under what conditions will the city reopen the golf course at Fresh Pond?
So I think it's like everything else. We have a team approach. So obviously we'll talk to the Public Health Commission, the head of Public Health, the Human Services Director, and determine what is the right time. We have not necessarily, again, looked at time frames, but it might be about if we were to open, what does that mean? Does it mean that we have to stagger tea times? Does it mean we have to do different things? And we started to put a committee together on that says, as city services also come back, what does that mean? Nothing's going to be the same. So rather than, again, say a date, what are the things we're looking for to determine whether it should come back? And then how are we going to bring it back to make sure that the social distancing and people realize that once you open the faucet a little, it means a little. And it doesn't mean it's full speed ahead. And how we control that is so important. So golf courses, it does have a lot of open space, a lot of room. So it will be one of the things that we look at eventually. But again, it's not about the date. It's about having a strategy and a discussion with all the experts to say, what should we be opening next? And we look at that in all areas. When will we determine if people can go back with barbershops and hair salons and tattoo parlors? When do we think people can go back to restaurants? We've got to have an approach that brings everybody together, and there's not going to be one brush that says all of this can happen at once. And how we determine that will really be a team effort and a discussion that goes on between me, the mayor, and our teams of experts to say, okay, this is the move. And again, I think one of the things that I found real helpful is we have a group of 7 or 8 managers now that are speaking to each other probably 4 or 5 times a week, just to say what are we thinking, how are we thinking about, to realize there is no playbook here, and we can learn from one another, and I think that's been helpful as well.
Yeah, I think this is a complicated issue, and it speaks to a lot of the issues that we're looking at, and I think for now, closing the golf course is the right thing to do.
And so related to kind of the last couple of things we discussed, with the social distancing, outdoor recreation, James in North Cambridge and Ruth in Agassiz are asking, since walkers, drivers, and bike riders seem to have adapted safely to current social distancing, why isn't the city closing Memorial Drive and other streets to give more space for people to be able to get out and be able to be apart, socially distanced while getting exercise?
So that's a great question. It's something I've spent a lot of time on, especially recently talking about. And again, I think we want to bring home the fact that there is a stay-at-home advisory. That is what we're asking, first of all, and that's important. But one of the concerns about Memorial Drive, and I can tell you, yesterday I had a meeting with the police commissioner, the fire chief, the commissioner of public health, and the chief public health officer to say, what are your thoughts about this situation? Because there is a split city council, there's split residents, it's not an easy one. And then we followed that up with a meeting of our COVID-19 advisory committee. And the consensus was, at this point in time, especially as they continue to talk about the peak, do we want to have a location which may bring a lot of people together? Because if you've been down there in the past, that does happen. It's also a location that the city doesn't control, the state controls. So what we've asked is to say, give us time to get through this process. Let us evaluate. We're not saying never, but just give us more time, because we're really trying to avoid that all of a sudden there's just so many people in that location. As we continue to talk about face masks and social distancing and closing of all these facilities, to then open up a place like Memorial Drive, it almost goes against everything we've been saying. And I just think it's a tricky situation. I understand both sides. But from the people that I feel I have to work with and listen to now, it is our thoughts that we should hold off on this until further down the line.
And I think it's key that we are listening to our experts. We asked the advisory what they thought about this, and they agreed that we need to take a very wait and see approach, especially with the surge, and especially the fact that the Memorial Drive is not just for Cambridge residents, it's for many, many residents. Watertown, you name it, Newton. So people are coming, they're congregating, and we want to make sure, of course, people have said, leave it to us, we can socially distance. I don't doubt that at all. I believe everyone who can do that. And at the same time, there are real concerns with this piece of how crowded will it be. And so it's an ongoing conversation. It does evolve every day, and that's something that we've both learned. If there are indicators that things are changing, then we'll talk about it. But it's a thing that we think about daily, and we'll be transparent about how that evolves moving forward.
In all sides are passionate, one way or the other, and it's important for us to try to then figure out a way to come up to a conclusion that we can defend and feel is correct, understanding there is passion on both sides of this issue.
Great. I know we're getting low on time, so I want to get to some important topics before we run out of time. The Mayor's Disaster Relief Fund. Laura from Mid-Cambridge and Toby from North Cambridge ask, is it still worthwhile for people to apply? And what's holding up the distribution and the amounts given out?
So yes, please continue to apply. We've been able to send about 82 checks last week to 82 households. We were able to cut 74 yesterday for a total of 156 households, and that is over $200,000. So that is important. We have about over 600 applications that are being reviewed by a team of 50. The team that's on this, I'm so grateful to, because they're working around the clock on weekends, on Monday when it was a holiday, to make sure that we're providing the support our families need. About 40% of these applications are coming from tenants who live in subsidized housing. And so that's very important. We are reaching people in multiple languages. We have a team of staff who are speaking Hindi, Portuguese, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and so forth. So it is a team effort, and the team is working as fast as we can, because it is a review process, but we are planning to cut checks at least twice a week.
So people should continue to apply. Go
Yes.
online, apply online, call the Mayor's Fund number,
Yes.
and get the help.
Please do. Yeah, we are really committed to to making sure all our residents have access to this fund.
Great.
And I want to thank the mayor for her leadership on this, but this really has been a team effort. And, you know, the experience of the fire in East Cambridge, it was a very difficult time, but we learned a lot from that fire on how to get checks out quickly and how to address the needs of our public. And I think when you think about the fact that the applications were out on a Monday, and we had the checks, first set of checks out on a Thursday, something we all should be very proud of. I know it was something that was real important to the mayor, but we wanted to get checks out, yet we want to do it in a way that it's accountable and that have audited why we made the decision. So I think we've learned from that, and I think we have a really great system in place, and it's something we're proud of. I also just want to say that, you know, we're over $3.5 million now, and obviously we have big donors, and you can't do it without the corporation, so I want to thank them. But I was talking to the mayor last night, and one of the things we're incredibly proud of is we've had 1,000 residents donate to this fund, and that's what makes Cambridge the place it is. That
Yeah.
when Cambridge asks for help, the residents step up big time, from $5 to $100 to $1,000. So I know, from speaking for me and the mayor, we really appreciate their response to this in terms of helping people who really need it most right now. And the mayor is still in discussions of what other ways we can use this fund to help people.
Great. Probably the last question we're going to have time for, and it's something that a lot of people have asked about. It's about property taxes. So Rolf from Neighborhood 9 and Alok from East Cambridge asked, is the city considering extending the May 1st deadline for property tax payments? And with City Hall offices closed, where would they send their tax payment?
So that's a great question, and we actually have something going on the web today. So we extended taxes. Originally, they were going to be due May 1, and then we said we would not charge interest till June 1. And that's, but then there's been legislation that said we could go till June 30th without charging interest. So our bills are now due June 1st. That'll be on the date. However, we're going to give our residents till June 30th to pay the bills without interest. We ask people if they have the funds to pay. Property tax is the biggest revenue for the city. So if you could get them in as quick as you can, that would be great. But we know for some that's just not fair, and we're going to give them to right through June 30, which is the end of the fiscal year. So it's the last date we can wait before we charge interest. And we've really done the same thing with our water and our sewer. It's important for the city to take advantage of when we can give opportunities to our taxpayers. We are in an incredibly strong financial position, and that's because of our commitment in terms of paying taxes in our city. We get 99.9% of our taxes paid traditionally without even sending out a demand. People are so responsive. So this is an opportunity to us to thank them, but also make them aware of the fact that it is our #1 revenue. So if you can't pay it, we would deeply appreciate it. But when we can't help our taxpayers, and there's really serious guidelines on when you can do this, but based on this incident, we felt we would give the strongest relief we could give them possible.
Great. And so I want to thank you, Mayor, City Manager, for your time.